Auburn heads west and takes down the Cal Bears 14-10 in their first ever win in the state of California. We'll talk the game and my reactions today on the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on. The Crowded Booth with Bryce Coon.
Happy Monday, everybody. If you're watching on Monday, I'm Will Maness. No Bryce today. Bryce has let me go solo to talk about Auburn and their win against the Cal Bears, 14-10, first ever win in the state of California. So kind of an ugly game. There was not a lot of good offensively for Auburn, but some good defensively. The defense really came through, especially the linebackers in the secondary. They did a really good job holding Cal. Cal held Cal to 113 rushing yards, and running the ball is usually what Cal does best. They played both their quarterbacks, Sam Jackson the fifth, more of a runner. Auburn did a great job limiting the Bears 2.8 yards per rush, and starting quarterback or running back Jaden Ott to just 78 yards on 20 carries. So really pleased there. Some worries though on that defensive line. I saw a lot of times that Auburn D-line get pushed back 4 yards before the tailback even took the handoff. That is not a good sign when that happens against Cal, and it's going to happen every play when Auburn gets into SEC play. So I don't know if it's a mentality thing. I don't know if it's a skill thing. Hoping it's a mentality thing because Auburn is going to be in a lot of trouble in SEC play if they cannot get a push up front. Speaking with some Auburn fans, getting their reaction from the games, they're really pleased with the linebackers and safeties in the run game. That's a good sign. It's good that those guys can tackle. That's a big help in the back. But that defensive line not being able to make plays and get a push up front is going to make it really tough to defend the pass. You got Texas A&M in 2 weeks. Jimbo Fisher, Bobby Petrino, they love the play action pass. They're going to run it a couple times, hit Auburn with the play action, and throw it down the field. Georgia, Georgia's going to do that. Mike Bobo, former Auburn play caller, back at Georgia, calling the plays now. He's going to do the same thing. So Auburn's got to make some correction up front on the defensive line. Maybe it's a scheme thing. Maybe the players don't fit what Ron Roberts is exactly wanting to do up front, but getting pushed around by Cal is not a good sign. Looking at some stats. Receiving wise, passing wise, Cal 160 passing yards. That's good for Auburn. You've got the key stats. You keep them under 150 yards rushing, 200 yards passing. You're going to have a good chance to win the game. Auburn's defense did that, gave their offense a chance, and their offense just did squeak by. Just 273 total yards of offense for Cal. They outgained Auburn, but Auburn won the game. The defense made stops when they had to. Before we move on to the offense, let's talk about the big playmaker on Auburn's defense Saturday night, Eugene Asante. North Carolina transfer linebacker led the team in tackles Saturday night with 12, had 1.5 for a loss, and had a sack. Ron Roberts has said time and again, this is a linebacker-driven defense. Playmakers have got to step up. Eugene Asante took that big step Saturday night and could feature as the main linebacker for this Auburn defense. Because Auburn needs a linebacker to step up, because you look at the tackle numbers. Second Saturday night was Donovan Kaufman with 8 coming from the safety position. He's kind of a hybrid, kind of plays safety, can kind of slide in at a hybrid linebacker, can play that slot corner. Donovan Kaufman does a lot, but then after him, you've got DJ James, who's your number 1 corner with 5. And then it's just a running list of a lot of guys jumped up 5'4", 3 tackles. So Auburn, maybe Eugene Asante can be that big playmaker in the middle for Auburn. Like I said, had the sack. There was only one other sack, and it came from Marcus Harris, who, in my opinion, is the only defensive lineman on Auburn's roster that should be on an SEC roster. I mean, I said it before. Defensive line played very poorly. I thought got pushed around a lot. And if you look at the tackle numbers, it shows it. Defensive lineman with the most tackles was Mosiah Nasili Kite, another transfer with 4 tackles. So you know, I don't know if this is a scheme problem. I don't know if it's a player problem. Like I said, Ron Roberts has said a number of times it's a linebacker driven defense. It's a linebacker driven defense. So that's probably where all your numbers are going to come from, is from the linebacker position, your tackle numbers. Hoping not your sack numbers, but it could, and it wouldn't be the worst thing, because Auburn kind of lacks an edge rusher right now. I think the biggest playmaker off the edge is true freshman Keldrick Falk. But again, he's a true freshman. It's going to take him a couple weeks to get his feet under him and really get going and really trying to put pressure on the quarterback. But Eugene Asante, huge game, 12 tackles, tackle and a half for loss, had a sack, had one pass breakup and 2 quarterback hits. Really, really big, really, really important for Auburn to get a playmaker out of that linebacker spot. Looks like it's going to be Eugene Asante. So now on to the offense. And I've got a lot of opinions about this Auburn offense right now. It was ugly. It was ugly Saturday night. Not a surprise when you just look at the score, 14-10. Look at the numbers. Peyton Thorne, 9 of 14, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Had the touchdown pass late to put Auburn ahead and win them the game. Came through in the clutch, but and 9 of 14 sounds pretty good. 94 yards doesn't sound really good, so a lot of underneath stuff. Thorne, I think, struggled a lot Saturday night, and Thorne has struggled his first couple of weeks. I was worried coming out of the UMass game. Auburn would get in the red zone and would go to Robbie Ashford, and Robbie Ashford was able to punch it in from 3 times against UMass. That to me was a sign that, Hugh Freeze, Philip Montgomery, they don't like where their quarterback's at. They don't like where their red zone is at. And it's concerning that they feel like they had to make a change at quarterback when they get in the red zone. Thorne, his first touchdown pass was a 13-yarder to Jay Fair. So that was a red zone pass. So that was good to see Thorne in the red zone. Rivaldo Fairweather catching that 5-yard touchdown pass to win the game. Gutsy call. Hugh Freeze said it after the game. They took a shot. They wanted to go to the air there and trusting the playmakers to go make plays, and they did that. The running game looked better. I thought Jarquez Hunter made his return. He got 11 carries for 53 yards. Damari Alston, I think he established himself as RB2 for Auburn. 8 carries, 51 yards. He should have got more carries. I know he got a little banged up in that game. He lost that fumble, which I think hurt him early in the game, and then he got banged up, so that limited his carries as well. Damari Alston, I think he's RB2. True freshman Jeremiah Cobb, he got 3 carries for 20 yards. Really looks like, with Jeremiah Cobb playing in this game, it really looks like that they do not plan to redshirt him this year. And I think that's a good thing for this Auburn offense. It lengthens that running back room. It gives you a third real option to go in between the tackles. Brian Battie had a very small role against Cal, just 1 carry for 6 yards, and he caught 1 pass. Battie, your speedster, your guy on the outside, but you've got, playing in the SEC, you've got to have guys that you can trust go between the tackles. If Cobb can do that and continue to take care of the football, Auburn has 3 legit options there. Robbie Ashford added just 11 yards to the run game. Really small night for him. 1 of 3 passing for 0 yards. So it was pretty much Peyton Thorne's game, and he didn't throw it a ton. There was a lot of 3 and outs for Auburn. And that starts up front for me. This Auburn offensive line, talked about it coming into the season. That was the biggest question mark on this offense, was the offensive line. 4 new starters on that offensive line last night. 4 transfers, and Cam Stutz, the 6-year senior, was the lone returning starter for Auburn last night, Saturday night. The offensive line play has got to get a lot better. It's got to get much better. I mean, when you're only running for when you only run for 136 yards, 3.6 yards per carry, you're not going to beat hardly anybody. And Auburn, I think, in a lot of ways, lucky to beat Cal. They lost the turnover battle. They had fewer total yards, fewer first downs. What was this? There was a stat by Bill Barnwell. He tweeted it out. Going into Saturday, teams were 1-65 when they lost the turnover battle and got less first downs than their opposing team. Auburn just became the second team ever to do that, to win a game when they had less first downs and fewer total yards. So just a really weird game. Pac-12 after dark kind of fit the mold, even being a non-conference game, because it was a weird game, a tough one to watch. And for Auburn, that starts up front. There was a play in the first half. Auburn went for a 4th and 2. I think they were around Cal's 45. Really telling to me. Auburn traditionally has been a power running team in its history. When Auburn's been at its best, it's run the football well, run it better than anybody else, and had, multiple running backs that could do it. You think about 2004, Cadillac Williams, Ronnie Brown. 2010, Cam Newton with some help from Michael Dyer and Ontario McCaleb. 2013, Trey Mason, Nick Marshall. Those, go all the way back. Bo Jackson leading a big, strong running back room. Auburn's at its best when it can run the football. So Auburn, traditionally, if you're going to go for 4th and short, you're going to line up and run the ball. Well, Hugh Freeze decided to go for a 4th and 2, and they throw a back shoulder fade to Rivaldo Fairweather. It looked like the same play that ended up being the game-winning touchdown. That, to me, was very telling that this staff does not have a lot of confidence in that offensive line to be able to push the line and get a 4th and short. And that is not a good sign going forward. You get into SEC play. You get against Texas A&M in 2 weeks. Like I said, you go on the road. You got to be able to run the ball, beat Texas A&M. Got Georgia at home in 3 weeks. That's going to be tough. Even if you can't run the ball, I'm not sure Auburn's going to be able to take down Georgia. But when Auburn's at its best, Auburn's running the football. They're not airing it out a ton. I mean, I think the running game Saturday night was efficient, but not elite. They averaged 4 yards a play, rushing 3.5 yards per game. That's got to improve, and I think it starts up front. So as we wrap it up today, let's talk about quarterbacks. Who's the quarterback moving forward? I've gotten some pushback from other Auburn fans I've talked to. I'm in the Robbie Ashford camp after 2 games. Peyton Thorne has not impressed me. We talked about Peyton Thorne. He looked great 2 years ago at Michigan State. Michigan State had that running game to open up the pass for him. Auburn hasn't had that in 2 games, and Auburn's going to have to improve if they want to do that. I know Robbie Ashford is not nearly as good of a thrower. Ashford's not a great thrower. But Auburn in 2013 with Nick Marshall won the SEC and went to a national championship with a guy that couldn't throw the ball very well. I think he was in the low 50s for completion percentage. Nick Marshall was. And so it can be done with a running quarterback. Hugh Freeze has had tons of success with quarterbacks that can run. You look at Malik Willis at Liberty, put that guy in the NFL. That Auburn transfer after a couple of years at Liberty put him in the NFL. So it can be done. Freeze has done it with a running quarterback. Ashford is great with his legs. That's a weapon that Auburn's got to use and use effectively. Saturday, they didn't use it effectively at all. It looked a lot like last year, the Robbie Ashford, TJ Finley quarterback rotation. Ashford in on 1st and 2nd downs. If you get in 3rd and long, boom, Ashford's out, Thorne comes in. The defense knows what's coming. When Ashford's in, they're stacking the box. And I know he doesn't throw the ball well, but you got to give him a chance. And I don't think he got a chance last night. Just three attempts, completed 1. It was a little swing pass. I know last year he didn't show a ton in the passing game, threw for 7 touchdowns, ran for 7 as a freshman, that didn't start the whole year. There was some signs. I saw some potential. I still see some potential. So really for Auburn's got to pick a quarterback. I don't like a quarterback rotation personally. Hugh Freeze has not indicated that he wants to rotate the quarterbacks the way that he did Saturday night. That was kind of different from the comments he's made. But I think you got to go to one and stick with him. And we know what Thorne's limitations are. He's not as good of a runner as Ashford. He's got to have a running game to back him up. Auburn doesn't have it right now. And if Auburn doesn't have it against Texas A&M, against Georgia, I think you got to make that change and give Ashford a shot to throw the ball, get into a rhythm, just to keep the defense honest. Because right now, rotating these quarterbacks, you're not keeping the defense honest. But I'm in the Robbie Ashford camp just because of the lack of running game Auburn's seen so far. They've got to run it better. Cal will hopefully for this team be a building block to spark them to play better. Like I said, I thought the running game was efficient. I didn't think it was great. But that starts up front, and maybe this is a scare. You could call this game an anomaly. It was the latest kick in the history of Auburn football, being 9:30 Central Time, local time. You go out west, crazy things happen. Pac-12 after dark. Maybe this is an anomaly, but this has to be a building block for Auburn moving forward if Auburn's going to be successful and Auburn's going to do well this year and make a bowl game, which is obviously the goal. So that's all I've got for you. Thanks for watching. Remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss any videos, streams, anything we do here at the Crowded Booth.
Pile in here and make yourself feel at home. The Crowded Booth is coming on.